It's time for Fort Worth Musical Moments. Join us now as Steve Markward takes a look at the music and the artists who made the city's vibrant musical legacy what it is today. And here we are again. It's Friday. Time for another Fort Worth Musical Moments. I'm Brent Adams along with Steve Markwart. And Steve, we get to bring back a guest today. We haven't had a chance to do that much, but we've got a guest today who has done as much, if not more, for anybody who's been an independent artist in country and Western swing music.
Yes, we do, Brent. Dena Wood is joining us with Indiexpress. And, when I first met Dena, it was very early when I decided I wanted to actually put my music out there because I liked the way it felt to hear my songs on the radio. And somebody told me, if you really want your stuff to get played, you need to get with Dena Wood. So I connected with her, and boy, I felt like, I'm sure a lot of other people felt the same way when I talked to her. I thought, well, I hit the jackpot here. So here we are with the hub of all information as far as music distribution and everything that we're doing as independent artists. She's right in the middle of it all, Miss Dena Wood.
Wow, there's not much left for me to say, Steve.
How's that for an intro, huh?
Yeah, that'll get it done. Hi,
well,
y'all.
Welcome, Dena. And we had you on a while back, but I think it's important that we check in with you from time to time because you do have your finger kind of on the pulse of what's going on. You're kind of a, for lack of a better word, a broker of information, both coming and going, and you kind of have a feel for what's going on and who's putting what music out there. And, you're just a great friend to all of us independent artists.
Well, I thank you very much for that, Steve. I tell you, my heart's in it. And I know I keep saying that over and over and over, but I can't convey how much passion I have for what all of y'all do and what I do. And I think it takes a village, and the village runs on information. And if we don't pass on our information that we're privy to others, it'll happen to country music again because that's, we're just coming back now with that music. And I feel like before, I've had so many people out of Nashville everywhere. In fact, last night we were looking at some old music. Jim was, and he was breaking it down on his computer. And this was back in the 60s. There's metadata on that music back then, but nobody told anybody what it was and nobody understood it. And because it wasn't passed on, then it fell by the wayside and people really lost a lot of royalties and a lot of credit for their music.
So how does that metadata, and we're going to get into the metadata thing a little bit more in depth, perhaps later on in the show. As we said in our preview that we put out there a couple of days ago, if you are an artist, fellow independent artist, a aspiring artist, maybe you're thinking about recording some music and you want to not only have it for posterity, but you want to get it out there on the radio if you think that it's good enough. And if you're an aspiring artist, or if you support an artist, you're trying to help, the artists that you're a fan of, you'll want to listen to all of this because what you do and what you offer is so beneficial. But let's talk about that metadata thing in the 60s. How in the world did that travel with those files? Because we didn't have computers. I guess we had computers back then, but I mean, certainly not like we do today. So how did that metadata stay intact and travel with that song, so to speak?
Let me answer your question with a question, because I don't know the extent, but I do know this. How did the music go on the vinyl?
Well,
see, yeah. It's the same thing.
So they just embedded it in there.
Yeah. There wasn't any ISRC codes on Johnny Horton's that we looked at, but there was a producer. There was his name, and there was a picture. But you know what? Maybe they did that later. Maybe that came in and did that later. But back in the day, the big labels, the big producers knew that it was important to have some kind, that they had to have some kind of ownership. And so there wasn't anything but vinyl at the time. I mean, radio stations played off vinyl. You alluded to Mooney and Loretta, and the vinyls, the 45s that they put out. But there was information being embedded in vinyl. It's a different kind of information, a different kind of embedding today. But if someone found that and that wasn't embedded in there, it would just be a piece of plastic to them. So it's like having a driver's license without a name on it. And you don't know who you are.
So I suspect a lot of people probably got cheated out of royalties that didn't have proper support and knowledge of that. And I guess back then it was up to the radio stations to report in detail everything they played.
And it's today too.
Pardon?
It is today too. They're supposed, they have that's why Sound Exchange and all these other entities that are, through the RIAA, the ISRC people, they have in the UK and in the United States and all over the world, they have people they listen to that. And if those stations have a report that they have written, you report,
right?
Your reporting station, you know what I'm saying? And so when they hear that coming out, they hold those people accountable, and they report to SOCAN and ASCAP and BMI, and that's they kind of hold them to task, if you will, because if those stations aren't reporting, then that's an FCC license.
Right. So just to back up for anybody who might not be familiar, or for anybody who happens to stumble across this later, explain what metadata is.
If I can open up an MP3 or a WAV, when I open it up with an app on my computer, it tells me whether it's a single or off an album. It's everything there is to know about that music, and each song has its own metadata. It tells you the track, it tells you the name of the album it's on, or if it's a single, it tells you who the artist is, it tells you the studio it was recorded in, it tells you who composed it, the time that the date that it was released, the year that it was released, the ISRC, the UPC, which is unit product code, that if you're going to sell your music, that's the code that identifies it. The ISRC is an international standard recording code, and that is what is tracked through Sound Exchange and is reported to BMI and ASCAP and SOCAN and all of that. Metadata is an inside cover to what you would see on the outside of an album.
That's a great explanation. I appreciate you throwing that out there, because that kind of helps build the base for the rest of this discussion here. And at the end of the day, if you want to boil it down to everything, you don't have that information. The systems that are in place to glean that information, to send it to those royalty agencies, don't get the information, and you don't get paid.
I've heard it said many times, I get a check once a year for 23 cents. So when was the last time that you talked to your producer or to whoever it was that whatever studio you recorded your music, whenever you had your CDs made, or whenever however it is you put your music out, when did you make sure that the ISRCs were there? When did you get someone to embed them for you? When did that's your responsibility as an artist. That's not my responsibility. Of course, I've kind of taken it on my responsibility now, because I realize that so many people don't know it. But you're not going to get paid for something that doesn't have a price tag on it. And your metadata and your ISRC especially is your price tag.
Right.
I know, Dena, when I've had my CDs produced for for sale, and I use a house called Disc Makers. There's lots of people do that for you. the cool thing about that particular platform, and I'm not trying to sell anything to anyone, so don't. I want to be clear on that. It's just that this is what I've always used because I like the presentation, I like the packaging, and so I have my album ready. I've got all my MP3s or whatever format they're in on my computer. I go into disc makers, and the cool thing about that particular company and their platform is it's pretty much idiot proof. It takes you step by step, and it will not let you progress to the next phase until you've completed the prior step, including having all your metadata in place.
That's right. And when you come to the part, and this is what I want to emphasize there too. When you come to the part that says, do you have ISRCs? If someone like me has already issued those ISRCs, or someone like DistroKid or CD Baby or whatever, then give them the ISRC. Don't let them put another one on it because you're double coding and it doesn't count.
Yeah. Now, just because even though I've gone through that process and I've finished, gotten all my songs, my files, audio files uploaded as CD tracks, and then I put my graphics together, and then the whole thing is done. I press place order, and then it takes my money and ships my CDs to me in record time. But even having gone through all of that, I've learned that it's still best to talk to someone like you to double check and make sure everything's in place. Nothing is completely foolproof. So let's backtrack a little bit, and let's say I'm John Smith, and I think my music's pretty good, and I want to make a song, record a song, or make a record, or whatever you want to call it, and put it out there. And I expect, I'm hoping to get radio play out of it. Walk us through music distribution 101 from an artist standpoint. So those that are listening that might be just brand new to this process, make it as simple as possible, step by step. What are the things that we need to do, including working with you to get the music out to as many radio stations as possible?
The first thing that you need to do is find a producer who is worth their salt. That's the first thing you need to do. You need to find a studio that knows what they're doing, and I'm going to use Kurt Ryle because that's who I believe in. Not that I don't believe in others, but I know Kurt, known Kurt a long time, and I know that he knows, and that's why I'm using Kurt, because I know that he knows, and he knows good music from bad music, and he can bring good music out of a bad artist. I mean, I've seen him. So if you want, the first step that you need to do is find someone who can train you as an artist, who can bring up your vocal abilities, who can teach you about timing and teach you about all the things that it's not about opening your mouth and twanging a word out. It's about the whole ball game. And unless you don't know the rules of the game, you can't play.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do have some affiliate production sources, more local, since this is Fort Worth Musical Moments. We do have an affiliation with Shane McCauley, who just his studio there in Pantego. I talked to him yesterday, and he happens to be not only a good producer, but my band leader for my A-list band. So we were talking about pulling those guys back together to get ready for this festival coming up. But yes, so it's about getting a good producer that can give you the quality, because if you're going to be an independent artist, if you're going to do it and spend the money and the time, and when I got into this thing, I realized if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. I don't want to do anything halfway. And there's so much talent out there in the independent artist realm. There's some really great artists that have just as much or more talent than a lot of these folks packing the huge arenas and stadiums. But if you're going to put something out there, it's got to stand up against, and in some cases excel over the stuff that's being put out by these big record labels. So that's a very important thing. And these studios, like Kurt's studio in Clarksville, our Clarksville Creative Sound Studio, it's important to have a good producer. The producer will work with you on your vocals, draw the best that he can get out of you and bring in the best musicians.
Yes, that's it. It's not just about you. You don't stand alone. And if you walked up on a stage at National Hall and picked up the mic or stood in front of the mic and just started singing with no band, how many people would get up and walk out? I mean, the normal person. I mean, it takes everybody, and it takes people to know what they're doing.
If Brent got up there and sang, everybody would walk out, but no.
Brent, you don't have to put up with that, huh?
No, I've never heard Brent sing, actually, so I better retract that comment.
There might be a reason for that.
But no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's so important, and it's important too. People need to understand something I've learned is a lot of people think, okay, I've got this band, we've been kicking around. Let's go in and let's go make a record. We've watched a lot of those movies where the bands, and next thing you know, the whole band's in the studio, then they're fighting, and then they break up over creative differences or whatever. But something that I think a lot of people should understand, there's a big difference between having a band that does live gigs and then bringing those musicians in the studio and making a record. And Kurt Ryle is real particular and very adamant about, if you want to come in and you want to do the vocals and you want to put out a great album with original material, leave your band at home.
Amen.
Unless you were featuring, one or two of your players, that are going to, unless it's a largely instrumental type thing, in special occasions, bring that player in. But there's a big difference between musicians that are creating music for performance versus recording, especially when you're working with original material. And the big difference that I've learned about these studio musicians, instead of being recreators, they are the creators of original music. And they're the ones that on the fly can come up with these iconic riffs that, because I've written a lot of songs, but I had no idea about some of the riffs that ended up being a big part of these songs as original creations until these musicians came in there and it's amazing how they can sit down and just create these riffs out of nowhere, and that puts a signature on that song.
Absolutely. These musicians are amazing artists. It is an artwork for them. I mean, they hear anyone who can hear those things in their soul, and I firmly don't believe it's just in their head. I believe it's in their soul. I believe that's a God-given talent, and they can absolutely create music that it's just amazing to me. I mean, and think about it. Anyone who's ever watched them work, they just sit down and do it. And what about if we do this? Boom, and this one over here will pick up where he left off, and before you know it, you have an amazing song.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we wanted to touch on that we hadn't had a chance to talk about since we last saw you is you have also gone out with our friend Suzanne Abbey and purchased I2I Records, which kind of what you're doing here with Indiexpress really gets that music out to the disc jockeys. This creates another avenue for you to be able to distribute this music to the general public.
That situation arose, and Greg and I had been talking for a long time, and Greg Irvin, who had I2I Records and has had it for a long time, and Greg had some health issues that prevented him from being able to carry it on. But to me, that's just another step. I mean, that's just another step for the independent artist. You put your music on streaming, and Steve, how much do you get for a song download or a song play?
A fraction of a penny, I think. I really don't know.
Yeah, well, that's about right. That's about right. I talked to Suzanne, and I wanted to do this just as an add-on to go with, there she is, that just as an add-on to go along with the distribution and the library effect of Indiex. I wanted somewhere that they could get, Chuck Cusmano is one that I'm going to bring up. I'm going to throw his name in the pot. I haven't made 23 cents a year, Well, number one, ISRCs. Number two, UPCs. Number three, are you getting it to the right people to distribute it? But I wanted, and Greg agreed to this, I wanted to put I2I as an addendum to India, so that anyone who wanted to, any music that I distribute, anyone who wanted to can add their music to I2I for download around the world. Now, it was set at $1 a download. I didn't like that because PayPal takes, that's who Greg used, that's who I use. PayPal takes 25 cents for every $2 download. I raised it to $2. They were going to take 25 cents, whether it was going to be $1 or $2. So I raised it to $2, and I don't think it, $2 today doesn't buy half a gallon of gas. So there you go. But in doing so, that artist gets $1 for every single download on I2I. Now you tell me where you're going to get that. PayPal takes 25 cents for the sale, and the other 75 cents we roll back. We don't take a profit. We roll it back. Well, you can call it what you want. We roll it back into the fund for Indiex and I2I websites. So what it does is it just enhances the distribution for Indiex is what it does. Because, who am I going to choose? Am I going to choose someone who's going to sell my music for me? The only thing I ask is that I don't want PayPal to take another cut off the music. So don't ask me to send it to you by PayPal. I can send it to you by Zelle. We can do Venmo. We can do a lot of things. Zelle is just my bank to your bank. And all banks have that, I have had a little bit of a problem with Brian Moon out of Clarksville Creative Sound, because he's in Canada and they don't have Zelle, and they don't have Venmo, and they don't have this. But we work it out. So I did send him a PayPal the other day or yesterday, and I hope that he will go ahead and open a PayPal account, because it's not going to cost him anything. I see you, Paula. There are excellent stage bands who also record together, especially in the Western swing genre, who use improvisations, and we are well aware of that. We're talking about the normal, that's abnormal. Western swing bands in the state of Texas, girl, you and I both know that's abnormal. That's abnormally, absolutely wonderful. That's what that is. So, but anyway, that's kind of why we went to I2I, and Greg made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and Suzanne and I both have been working fervently. She working harder than me on it, because I've been kind of tied up for a couple of months, but we hope to have that all ironed out and everything going. Steve, we did get yours up there. Yours is on there. So what I want to do, here's my insight. I want to take, we started putting, I had her start putting up links on Indiex so that people would see it as they came. I want to take all those off now that it's aware, because I want Indiex to stand on its own. But I want to give one of the links, so that like Donna and Billy Mata want his music up there, so I can give them a link to put on their webpage that buys from I2I, and that way they get more sales, because people who go to their webpage are looking for Billy Mata music. And I just think that if I can facilitate a link to sell your music, and that's all you have to do, you don't have to pay me to do it. I'm not charging to do that. Does that make sense?
It makes good sense. And that's an important point. So my thought here is, if you're a fan of an artist or a group of artists, and you really want to support them, like me, I've got all my stuff out. I did it through TuneCore, I guess. You can go through those different, like CD Baby or DistroKid. And so what happened with that is I got my music out there on all these different platforms: iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music,
Right.
Spotify. And most of that stuff, like we just talked about, for every stream that's, and I've got thousands of streams, tens of thousands of streams on some songs. And yet, I don't have much to show for it in my bank account. But I put it out there because, I'm kind of reaching that tangent point of exposure versus prosperity, I guess you could call it. And right now, early in my musical career, I'm a late bloomer. I wanted to get my music out to as many people as possible. But what has happened with so many of us is you kind of sell your soul when you do that to an extent. And so if you really want to, I think at some point we as artists have to kind of take control of our distribution. And that means maybe not putting our music out to those other platforms that offer pretty much close to free streaming, or don't pay you a hill of beans, and funnel everything into something that's a lot more generous of a business model like what you're offering. And as fans, I should say, if you really want to support these artists that you love, then be mindful of where you're buying their music and how you're accessing their music. Don't go to Spotify and download that stuff for free, or as a part of your monthly subscription. Go to places like i2i Records, and for a little bit more money, you're going to make a huge difference for that artist, and that could be the very thing that keeps them out there on the road and makes them available for you to see when they come through your town. Does that make sense?
It's exactly sensible. And the thing of it is, those streamers, everybody, I hear everybody go, "Oh, I'm on the streamers. I'm on this and I'm on that, and I'm on Spotify and I'm on, iHeartRadio and I this and I that." You know what? You can go to YouTube and upload your song for nothing, and you can be on YouTube and you'll get the same thing you should get off of other people, which is nothing. You get nothing for nothing. Let's see. I don't want to be the only one that does this. I want to lay the groundwork, because I'm not going to be here forever. I want to lay the groundwork that gives people the thought that the independent artists are the important artists. They are the ones that we should be looking at. They are the ones we should be listening to. They're the ones with the story about my life and about what I've done, about your life and what you've done, guys. The independent artists are the heartbeat of America. It's not shitty.
Well, and if you think about the word independent, really what you're saying is, probably the most famous independent artist ever was Prince.
Yes.
He was one of those pioneers, and Brent, you know this story probably better than I do, but he was one of the first guys to say, in fact, he got kind of dramatic and had the word slave written across his forehead, because they said, "What's that about?" He goes, "That's what I've been all these years to these big record labels." And
that's right.
Been at the mercy of their financial model. And he said, so let's say you put an album out there, and the album costs $20 at the record store. How much money do you think I made off of that old business model? You don't want to know. He goes, wasn't anywhere near what I deserve. I mean, it was my creation. It was my hard work, and yet I got sliced up thin as a deli meat at a deli. And I got tired of it. So he went from being a big label artist to an independent artist. And that's all that means, is that we're not dependent on the big so-called big machine there. And so I think it's up to us as independent artists, and it's up to our fans to support that. But it's up to us as independent artists to kind of take control of how our music's being distributed. So there's that quandary of, well, I want to get my music out to as many people as possible, but do we have to do it for free?
And here's something else. Don't you artists out there, or the people who are working promoting them, don't be afraid to call your local brick and mortar radio stations and request music, request a specific song, not the same song over and over and over. But I have a client, and you know him. His name is Eric Diamond.
Yeah.
And Eric has his posse of kind of like not like Billy Motto's posse, but he's got his own type of posse. And these little ladies are calling KSSL radio on their all request noon jukebox, and they are in quandaries of like 5 and 6 of them are calling and requesting his music, and of course they're playing it because it's an all request jukebox. And I got a message from Suzanne yesterday, said, tell Eric Diamond to tell his fans not to request the same song 6 times. But if y'all,
think that's important. Isn't that kind of what fan clubs are about, is supporting the artists?
They gone.
Yeah. I mean, one of the greatest fans of especially Western swing music, I guess she's tuned in, is Paula. Is that Paula Youngman? That yeah. Paula's a one-person force to be reckoned with, and so I hope she's listening, and maybe, you know, she may already be doing that, calling radio stations. She doesn't let any grass grow under her feet, and she holds us all accountable too. I mean, she's not afraid to tell me if she, you know, if she, you know, she has a critical ear and she knows this music very well, and she's always been very, and I rely on that, and I appreciate that so much. She's one of the people that that upholds a standard that we all, you know, should you know, kind of hold a mirror to our music and ourselves, and you know, and if you can pass that test, then you're doing pretty darn good. But that's what fan clubs are about, is you know, they're one of the most powerful forces. When you get a bunch of people together that are dedicated fans to an artist, they can further your cause more effectively than anything else.
And where did the fan clubs cease? They ceased. They faded out when big took over. You know, when these big labels took over. It's more about, to them, it's more about big events and millions and millions and billions of dollars. They're leaving out rural, strong America. I had to say that, Brent.
Nice.
That's right. Yeah, thank you for that. And no, you're absolutely right. But that's where the power still is. If you're talking about terrestrial radio, it is in rural America. These non-reporting stations that can play whatever they want to play. They're not beholden to the conglomerates, and they're not you know, tied to an agreement that says we have to give this artist and this artist and this artist X number of spins, so the label will do X for us. You know, they can play whatever they want whenever they want. So those are the ones, and you know, most small towns have them, and those are the ones you need to leverage, because they're the ones that still have people who run actual air shifts. You know, most of these other ones are just voice tracking from hubs in larger cities. You know, that a lot of those stations don't even have regular on-air personalities, or maybe one, but they're not going to take requests. They don't even answer phones, but
right.
You know, I know they still do in rural America. So those are the ones that you need to rely on.
But you know what they do?
A lot of these stations are going to be AI programmed, which is kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, they're already headed that way.
Those rural stations, Brent, still get emails from Indiexpress.
Right.
And those emails take a link, and that link goes to the library, and that library is able for them to use a password and sign in on the website 24/7. They have access to the independent artist music. They don't need the big guys.
All right. All right. And I think that's what all this discussion is about. You know, it's about the radio stations being able to circumvent that whole big label process. It's about artists knowing how to do it. And there's plenty of ways. You know, when you were talking about Prince earlier, there's a lot of country artists who kind of made their mark with labels, had one or two, you know, decent albums out there, had some success to get their name out there, but then were dropped for one reason or another by the label, as the label just kind of moved on and evolved. But they found that they're doing better as independents than they ever were under the labels.
Because there's no camaraderie there. You know, Steve, y'all talk about all the time at Clarksville Creative Sound that it's a family. You know, you all the time it's this artist supports this artist and this one supports that one, and there's no animosity, there's no jealousy, there's no this. It's because it's a village. It works together. It's a family.
It's got to be that way, or they're not on our label.
Well, and that's good. Let them go be on whatever label it is in Nashville that nobody can get on. I mean, because they're not going to stand behind you. They quit standing behind you when Sam Phillips died.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, absolutely right. And that's, I think what's being built here, if people have been paying attention over the last 12 to 18 months, is something really special. And to watch it kind of grow and evolve has been really something to see here. And I think what you're going to see over the next 12 to 18 months is those next steps, Steve. And I know you guys have been really busy putting those pieces together.
Elaborate on that.
Well, just everything that's been done, from putting all these singles out through Indiexpress, all the artists that have been now organized. We had the show a couple of weeks ago where we showed kind of the roster of Clarksville Creative Sound, and we don't want this to be exclusionary. There's a lot of great independent artists out there that aren't Clarksville Creative Sound artists, but just the work that's been done behind the scenes to not only get that roster in order, but start finding opportunities for them to share their music to the public outside of radio singles.
And that's an important point, Brent, and Dena both, because Dena, you're right in the middle of this, and as far as I'm concerned, you're a big part of Clarksville Creative Sound from a independent. You're independent of it. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to think that you're pushing our agenda by any means, because you're as neutral as you can be, but you're a big supporter of our what we do, just like you're a big supporter of Tracy Pitcox and what he does, and all these other guys that actually have organizations that have artists under their umbrella, and all we're trying to do is just set a standard that we hope other people will follow, because it takes to sound to coin a corny an overused phrase, it takes a village here. We're just one small part of that. If we as independent artists in this movement of independent art, independent music, especially in the country genre, which, by the way, country music is the fastest growing genre of music by far than any other genre, then we've all got to, as a group, put the best possible product out there, so we can stand up again, not only stand up, but excel against, I call it the evil empire, the big, and a lot of the stuff coming out of Nashville, and I think based on the things that have happened in the last few weeks, and we don't have to go into all that, but apparently a lot of people are really, we're seeing that very clearly, wanting to go back to basics and get back to what people define as real music. We just wanted to. All I knew is that when we put together Clarksville Creative Sound, and Kurt and I sat down and with a lot of help from folks like you, Brent and Dena, and we decided to create this charter roster of artists. It just didn't happen without a lot of thought, and it was a very strategic, big puzzle that we were putting together. And so every artist kind of has their purpose within the umbrella. And again, it's very important that they support each other, they cheer each other on. And it's also very important that we're strategic in what we release when we release it. I don't want to put a song out by Mackenzie McKetty, and then the next day Vanessa Bourne releases a song and we steal the fanfare from Mackenzie, or vice versa. So we have to be very careful as this thing grows, and as we're putting out more and more music, we're very strategic about how we release and when we release the music and what we release as well. We don't tell the artists, it's not a dictatorship, but we're very strong in our suggestions about what they're putting out there. and we kind of funnel that into what they're best at in their genre of music. And so really all I'm saying is we're hoping that we're a standard bearer, and we're holding a high standard there that hopefully other people can are either doing that alongside of us or aspiring to that. Because again, if we are determined to bring what we're doing into the forefront and become mainstream, and if we're going to do that, it has to be the best possible quality, and we have to be well organized.
Absolutely. And let me clarify something right here. You do not have to be on the label to be recorded at Clarksville Creative Sound.
No, and just because you record at Clarksville Creative Sound doesn't mean you're on the label.
Right. So I want you to speak to that. Speak to that.
It's kind of a vice versa thing. And it's not that and if you're not on the label and you've recorded there, and it's not because you're below a standard or anything like that. Again, our roster of artists, there's a strategic component to us deciding who's on our label. And that label will grow as time goes on, and we'll be adding more people to it, and we may be dropping some people, or people may leave and go somewhere else. I mean, that happens all the time. But yes, anyone is welcome to book a session with Kurt, and he makes it very affordable. In fact, too affordable if you ask me. But that's what Kurt does. He loves to do it. It's more about the love of music than it is certainly the money for Kurt. And but we do, of course, show deference to the members of our label, and we work very hard. If it's going to have our stamp on it, it's certainly going to be. It's not going to leave the doors of our studio without it being the very best it can be.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
So I think that kind of leads to the next question. I'm sure that people are wondering, Steve, take us behind the scenes. What does it mean to be an artist under the Clarksville Creative Sound label? What all does that entail aside from recording there at the studio?
Well, I mean, we try to be as artist friendly as possible. When I first joined with Kurt, and we decided we wanted to work together in a partnership, which was thanks to Dena Wood. Dena's the one that drugged me up to Tennessee, to Clarksville, to the songwriters workshop. And I'm like, what the heck am I doing up here? And who are these people? And I went from that to being in the Smoky Mountains, writing music, to realizing I'd hit the jackpot, and Kurt needed someone with a little more experience in the business realm. And maybe it's good that I didn't have a whole lot of experience in the music business, because we're doing some things that I think are a little bit unconventional. And I think if we're going to thrive, not only survive, but thrive in this market that we're in, it takes unconventional, outside of the box thinking. A lot of things we're accomplishing is because I didn't know we couldn't. I'm telling people quite often when I talk to people that are fellow artists or have been in the music business a good while, and I'll tell them what we're doing, they'll say, you can't do that. And I said, well, we're doing it. But anyway, not to get too far into all of that, what does it mean to be a part of a label like Clarksville Creative Sound? Well, for us, again, it's very artist friendly. We're not going to hold you hostage. We don't go out there and say, okay, you're part of our label, sign this contract, and we'll give you an advance of, all this money. When big record labels do that, I always say it's kind of, if you get a deal with a big record label, if that's what you really want, it's kind of like, be careful what you ask for. You might get it. A lot of times when people sign, I've heard so many stories of people signing with these big record labels, they turn around and write them a check for a big advance. And when they use that word advance, the artists get that check and they think they've got it made in the shade. But really what it is a loan, and you, Mr. Artist, are the collateral. So be careful about that. That's not what we're about, but being a part of Clarksville Creative Sound label as an artist just means that you're not out there on your own. You're not having to figure all this out on your own. We have a lot of connections, support, elements at your disposal. We connect you with people like Dena Wood. You can find Dena, on your own, but we have a very, very, very close working relationship with Dena, and We all strategize together. We've got other means of exposure. Just means more exposure for you, and you get the benefit of having a whole organization behind you. We're adding elements to that every day. I just finalized a deal with a group called Blended Sense. They're a content creation company, revolutionary. They've won all kinds of awards for startup tech companies. They've got this beautiful platform that as you go, when you sign up and you develop an account on that platform, it'll connect you with a creative, no matter where you are geographically in the United States. So let's say I'm up in Chandler, Oklahoma, and I want to do a music video. We can find you a video. The Clarksville, the Blended Sense platform will match you with a videographer in that area, and you'll have a videographer there shooting a music video for you in hours in some cases, and then they take the content into their editing house. They do a real slick edit on that, and then they'll give you a music video. They'll give you small short clips for Instagram and TikTok, and and they also provide social media strategies. So those are, and we offer all of those services. It's not free to the artist, but it's at a substantial discount because we've negotiated a package deal with them based on managing a group of artists, and I happen to be a close friends and a part of that, a partner in that company as well. So we're able to offer that valuable service for a deep discount to the artist. And then we're also always looking for opportunities for our artists to get more exposure and play, get out there and perform live music, because that's what I do this for. I don't have any delusions of grandeur that I'm going to make, millions of dollars performing and selling records. I do it because I love music, and everything points to me having opportunities to get out there and perform. There's nothing better for me than to get out there and be performing my music and feeling the energy coming back from the fans and the people out on the dance floor. So it's about just having a support system and a safety net. And that's kind of what Clarksville Creative Sound is. And all we ask for in return is if we set you up with an opportunity and it means some meaningful revenue to you, then we have a chance to share in just a small portion of that. And all that does is keep our label alive and healthy and able to support you in your next opportunity.
And so, Dena, what's next on the horizon here for Indiexpress? That's kind of a loaded question, isn't it?
That is. I have a lot of things that I want to do. I want to refurbish the library. I know Suzanne's going to be sorry to say that. I don't ever take music off my library. I mean, if you put it up there, it's there for the duration. I just feel like that's the way it ought to be. I kind of like the idea that it's there, that Indiexpress has a huge library of independent artists, and it's there for the artists. And as I said on our last show, at one time I was going to, after a year, charge $50 to leave their music up there. That's debunked. I said, Dena, that's stupid. That makes it about money. So, everything is about money, but not this. So I want to kind of change it to there's a list there already that says what was added and in what date and what year, but I kind of want to spread it out a little bit. Brent, you know how when you go in there in country alphabetized, and I want to put it annual. I want an annual folder, and everybody who was added in the year 2021, it will still be on that itinerary, the sheet that's there. But that way, if someone's going in there and looking for something just new, or they want to go in and look for something that's been there a while, all they have to do if they're looking for something in particular is type in the name, and the search bar takes them to it. But I just want to make it easier on the DJ. They are who I want it to be easy for. I have very, very good rapport with them, and I have gotten back so much feedback here lately from all over the world. And I have to give a shout out right here to one of the best assistants I can have. Well, that's Suzanne, but we have another one, and that's David D'Souza out of Australia. And I just like y'all keep David in your prayers because he's having some problems with his hearing, and it's, you know, he's a DJ, so let's keep him lifted up. But he's doing some videos for me, some lyric videos for me that is just amazing, and he's doing it for the love of music, and he's not charging me. I'm not charging for it, you know. He has done some. He did one for Ron Christopher, and by the way, I know it's not Clarksville Creative Sound, but I encourage both of you to listen to that song that Ron has released this week. It's all about the song because it sure speaks volumes about it, and I've had some great feedback on that. But I don't want to ever stand still, Brent, and answer your question. And when you ask me what's in store for Indiexpress, everything. If I can think of it, I'm going to do it. You know, if it can be done, Suzanne and I are going to do it. And we listen to the DJs, we listen to the artists, and we bring the best of both and try to present it to y'all.
And I know you put your heart and soul into this whole thing here, but I guess the question I would ask to you, why are you so passionate about this music business and about helping artists?
Why not? Why not? Why not? Are they passionate about what they do? I think so. And God gave me a passion, and he gave me a focus for it. And I'm just going to tell you, if it wasn't this, it'd be something else. And I like
it. I want to say something that really was Dena and I've had a lot of moments together in the long conversations we've had about our beliefs and spirituality. And the very first time I ever met Dena, I thought it would be a short phone call to get hooked up with her to get my new album, my first album, released out there. 2.5 hours later, we're still on the phone, and it was like, man, there's a special friendship here developing real quickly, and that happens a lot. You know, if you strive to be on a spiritual plane, you can connect with each other at that same those that are on that same level, or a same plane, I should say. And that's just kind of where Dena and I connected, and we've had a lot of philosophical talks. We've had a few debates here and there, but she's one of those friends that holds me accountable, and vice versa. But one of the neat things recently about Dena that it dawned on me, I was talking to her not too long ago, and I said, Dena, I could get a tech person in there to completely revamp your Indiexpress platform, put in a dashboard to where it can all be self-serve, where you don't have to deal with the artist. They go in there just like disc makers. They can go in there and it'll be foolproof. Step by step, they can upload their own songs and then push a button and it just goes out automatically. And you don't have to touch that stuff. I said, what do you think of that? And you said, well, then I would miss the interaction with these artists. She goes, that's why I do this. So to connect with these people out there. She goes, why would I want to do that? And I thought, wow, and that's what we're talking about here. I suspect, Dena, a lot of it for you is just about the relationship at that level. And yeah, you would miss that if you had some nameless, faceless platform that just was self-serve. Then it would take away from the daily interactions. And that's what makes you, one of the things that makes you so special, Dena, and what you do so special is that you have these strong relationships, not only with the artists, but you have them with the DJs. Nobody can touch that. You've got personal relationships with hundreds of DJs all over the world. And that's so important.
It is to me, because they're as important to me as the artist, because I'm going to tell you, without the DJs, the artist couldn't be heard. And with the artists, the DJs wouldn't have anything to play. So,
So
I'm just the mom.
that food chain, aren't you?
Yeah.
I didn't see who did this here, but somebody said we've got enough robots and AI. Keep it real. So yes,
That's old Billy Bowles.
nice, good job. Well, I tell you what. Before we get out of here, Dena, let everybody know how they can get to Indiexpress if they're a DJ, or to Eye to Eye Records if they're a consumer, to be able to go and support this music.
Absolutely, I will. And everybody get your pen and paper ready, because there was Billy Bowles with his Lone Star and his pencil. So if you're a DJ and you want access, password access, and want to put your email on our distribution list, contact me on Facebook. Contact me at www.ndexpress1.com, Indiexpress1.com, or just get me on Facebook. It's, if you want to type in D Wood in Texas, it'll take you to my Facebook. Just contact me and let me know, and we'll give you a password. We'll verify you. We'll bet you that you are indeed who you say you are, and then we'll give you access to that. If you're an artist, same thing. You can find me on Facebook. My email is too difficult to remember. I did it on purpose, but I did it so I could remember it. So just contact me on, there's an Indiexpress page. There's all kinds of stuff, but just get me on my personal Facebook, because that's me, and that's where I'll be.
Sounds like a plan. Well, Dena, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. It's always great to catch up with you here, and thank you for all you're doing to move independent music forward.
Thank you both for asking me. It's always an honor to be here.
And Steve, we had John Durham, the events manager at National Hall, on here last week. Had a great discussion about what that future looks like here in the partnership with National Hall, and it took another little step forward this week.
Yeah, I just love that place. It's hard to put my finger on it. Besides the fact that it's a historic building, and it's a great space. I say good juju there. I just like the way the hall feels. I like how inviting it is. I like the fact that it is a historic place. It's in a place located in a part of Fort Worth that is a little off the beaten path. And I don't know how many people, including myself, the first time I went out there, I thought, my gosh, I had no idea this place was even here. What a gem. And so fell in love with that place, and then getting to perform there was just such a neat deal that when I started thinking about going out and having more opportunities to do live music, I thought, well, I could do the honky tonk circuit, but I'm a little too old to be playing till 2 a.m. And risk having beer bottles thrown at me if we have a bad night. I'd rather have a little more control over the experience and make it a little more family friendly. And so that's when we decided to embark upon this partnership with National Hall. And one of the things that we realized real quickly is that they had some deficiencies there that we might be able to help them with because of limited budget. And so here we are now putting a sound system and a lighting system in there. And I'm just so excited about what this thing is looking like. And yeah, I sent you some pictures. I was there yesterday. They just got the stage lighting system set up, and it is just it'll blow you away, the capabilities that we've got with that. It's going to create a whole new environment and a whole new atmosphere. And we'll unveil that officially at my brother Mike's birthplace in Western Swing festival in November. And then we're going to start, we'll be making announcements pretty soon. I know Paula Youngman and some other folks have asked, when are you going to start doing regular concerts there? And we've got some other things that are kind of requiring our full attention before we can shift gears and schedule some regular concerts at National Hall. So that probably won't happen until after the first of the year. But this new sound system and this new beautiful lighting system will be unveiled officially at the Birthplace of Western Swing Festival, November 9th, 10th, and 11th. So super excited about that, and the folks at National Hall are just great to work with. What I love about that hall, it's got a full bar for those that want to indulge in that kind of thing, but it's also John Durham has a barbecue pit and can create and serve just about any type of food there. Again, the atmosphere is friendly. It's family friendly. We want to encourage that. More than ample parking, not only for individuals in cars, but you've got a whole big yard where you can bring RVs in, and you'll see that at the festival. A lot of RVers are fans of our music, and they'll come in, and we'll have our official tour bus there too in the back, which we're excited about too. Steve Oliver is going to be bringing that down from Nashville. So real excited about that. Bill Johnson with Dallas Sound and Light is doing all the installation on the sound and the lighting. And so we're going over there Sunday. My brother and I are to get a tutorial on how to work that lighting system. And Dena, if you're not careful, I may put you on the lighting controls. So. But if you can't turn the lights off. So, but anyway, we're real excited about that. So that's going to be a great home-based venue for me, for Clarksville Creative Sound artists and artists outside the label. I want to be clear on this show and everything we're doing here. This is not just about Clarksville Creative Sound. Of course, I'd be a fool not to use this to help promote what we're doing at Clarksville Creative Sound. But I was asked not too long ago, do you ever have guests on that don't have anything to do with Clarksville Creative Sound? And I said, of course. We had Billy Mata on not too long ago, and he's not a part of our label, but we're huge fans of his. And anybody that's got any ideas of who we might have as a guest on this show, certainly let us know. We're always looking for new people to have on this show. They certainly do not have to be affiliated with Clarksville Creative Sound. There's enough to go around.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, it's about that time. So just want to remind everybody to make sure that you're plugged in here to this Fort Worth Musical Moments Facebook group, the Clarksville Creative Sound Facebook group, and the Rural Strong Media Facebook page. So you can find out the latest as things progress here with this show. And we're back every Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time to bring those guests to you. So I hope you will engage. Make sure you drop us some comments in here, ask questions, and let's make this interactive so we can keep this thing forward and keep having fun with it. I also want to invite you to check out Rural Strong Radio. You know, Dena mentioned that earlier. It's our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app. And it plays the best in traditional country music, Western swing and bluegrass, mixed in with a little Southern rock and inspirational music. And yes, we do pay our royalties. So if you're an independent artist, you're going to get that fraction of a penny that Steve was talking about here. And I'm doing my best to try to get, Steve, as many fractions of those pennies as I can for you here.
Well, appreciate that. As long as I can maybe get something at McDonald's and maybe even supersize it, that'd be nice.
Well, that's a tall order given what the menu at McDonald's looks like these days, but we're working hard to try to get that done for you here. And I just hope everybody will check that out again, ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app. And as we like to remind you every week, a couple great Sunday programs coming straight out of Texas at 9 a.m. on Sundays Central Time. We've got our friend Robbie Lynn with Sunday's Kind of Country. And man, I love this show. Robbie's really building up something big there in Vidor, Texas. He's got a new studio he's putting together down there, and they're going to do some live videos there. And he has really gone back to his hometown and built it up big here. And he reaches the whole nation with his great Sunday's Kind of Country, 3 hours of great inspirational music. You're going to get everything from Johnny Cash and George Jones and the Oak Ridge Boys onto some great independent music that'll just fill your soul. Then at about 12:45 Eastern, 11:45 Central, I come in with about 15 minutes of inspirational music that gets you to the top of the hour when we head on out to Lubbock, Texas, to join our good friend Billy Bowles for Billy Bowles Swinging Country. So we got a great lineup there from 9 a.m. all the way to about 2 p.m. Central Time, where we just we've got some great programming there, and I hope everybody will check that out. Well, I tell you what, it's time for us to get on out of here. Enough of the plugs. Steve's got one more here.
I just need to say one quick thing, and then we'll get out of here. Talked this morning over breakfast with Kurt, and he's got Kathy Jewell in the studio, and they're finishing up. They're laying down all the music. The musicians are going to be in the studio, and I can't wait to hear what Kathy is going to release, because there's some really special tracks that they've written together, and she's going to be recording. And so she's just so excited, and Kurt is too. And talked to them this morning, and Kathy's husband Rock's there with them too. And Rock still doesn't quite know what to think of Kurt and I after seeing that Talking in Your Sleep video. He saw that, and he started backing up. I'll never forget that day in the studio. We showed him that. And by the time we were done, he was across the room. He looked at Kurt and I. He goes, he's a man of few words, but he goes, y'all just ain't right.
And he is right.
But anyway, I'm real excited about what Kathy's going to be putting out there. I can't wait to get those tracks and listen to them, and I can't wait for you guys to get that music out there to the public. That'll be coming out fairly soon. And we recorded some great original songs for Jaden Riley, who's just an unbelievable young vocalist. I mean, her voice is just she's got a better handle on control than anybody I've ever seen. And she's been mainly in the pop genre, but we have steered her into the country genre, and she is loving every minute of it. I think she got a whole new enthusiasm now, and loves the feel of these country songs. So can't wait to get that stuff out there too. So be watching for all those and many other releases as we put that stuff out there, and we'll be putting more information on that very soon.
When provided that Kurt's feeling up to it, we'll have another Road Stories with Kurt Ryle this coming Monday, August 7th at 8 p.m. Central. We do those every other Monday night. He kind of pulls back the curtain on his time working with some of the greats in the country music industry here. And that's on the Kurt Ryle Road Stories Facebook page, the Clarksville Creative Sound Facebook page, and Kurt Ryle's Songwriters Workshop page too. So a lot of great places to see that.
You can say that he kind of comes out of the closet on that show. Is that?
We'll leave that to you to say. I am not going there. And on that note, I know they're knocking it out of the park down there in Clarksville today. But thank you to everybody who joined us here for this discussion. We really appreciate it. We hope you'll come back again next Friday at 10 a.m. Central for another Fort Worth musical moment. So for Dena Wood and for Steve Marquardt, it's Brent Adams. Keep riding tall in the saddle, and we'll see you again next week.
So long.
You've been watching Fort Worth Musical Moments, a production of Rural Strong Media and Clarksville Creative Sound, copyright 2023. Please join the Fort Worth Musical Moments Facebook group and join us each Friday at 10 a.m. Central as we introduce you to another key figure in Fort Worth's musical heritage.